from what I've heard, that this, and from what I see, is that this new goal of Russian military to focus on the Donbass region is basically not what they planned in the first place, because we've heard from multiple reports that Russians were hoping to seize the whole of Ukraine in the few days, and they were even bringing parade uniforms with them to parade on Khreshchatyk, because Russian propaganda has been telling for years that maybe Ukraine won't be resisting if Russian forces were to invade. So maybe Russians believed in their own propaganda. And there is a lot of evidence that they really believed that only maybe some so-called Nazi battalions would resist, but otherwise Ukraine's armed forces would not resist Russian troops, and Russians would be able to capture Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, and other major cities very quickly. The reality has turned out to be very different, and Ukraine has been resisting very fiercely. And we see that in the north of Ukraine, so near Kyiv, Ukraine's armed forces actually won, and Russians had to withdraw their forces, covering this by an explanation that, Russian forces retreated due to peace talks in Istanbul, so that it could be a sign of good faith. But in fact, they could not take Kyiv, and they had no forces to not even to take Kyiv, but to encircle Kyiv. That's why they had to withdraw. The same is with Kharkiv. Kharkiv is some 50 kilometers from the border with Russia. Still, it stands for more than 40 days, and it will stand. Russia won't be able to capture it. And now we see that Russian forces, which go from Belgorod region to Donbass, they simply move around Kharkiv, but they do not try to capture it. So now Russia will try to do to execute this new plan to capture Donbass, the whole territories of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, because in my opinion, Putin desperately needs any kind of win, which he can clearly present to the Russian society as win by May 9th, because May 9th is the annual Victory Day in Russia, which is a holiday which has a huge political significance. And for Putin, any kind of victory is needed by this date.
We're hearing a lot about potentially what might happen up until the date of May 9th, as you have said. But when we see the carnage on the ground and we see the extensive damage and the footage that we are seeing, talk to us about the actual sentiment on the ground. How are Ukrainians feeling about the situation right now amidst these latest reports? What are you hearing and what are you feeling?
Yeah, so I would say that the whole Ukrainian society is understandably very angry due to Russian atrocities which were uncovered in Kyiv region. So I believe that the goal of Russian troops for doing this terror was to intimidate Ukrainians into surrendering, but it actually had quite an opposite effect, and Ukrainian society is now very angry, even more energetic and ready to fight, and so are Ukraine's armed forces. So Ukraine has been preparing for this big fight in Donbass, I would say, for the last 8 years, because at this or that date, one expected major Russian offensive in Donbass. I guess nobody in Ukraine quite expected that Russian offensive would take this scale. So not only in Donbass, but also from the north, from the south. But for the fight in Donbass, Ukraine has been pretty much preparing for the last 8 years. And now I firmly believe, and I also see this in my colleagues, I see this in public polls. For instance, the latest poll by Rating Group, a reputable sociological agency, shows that 95% of Ukrainians believe in victory. And I also strongly believe in Ukraine's victory. And in my opinion, this fight in Donbass in the next few weeks, so in the next 2 to 3 weeks, might be deciding in this war. So if Russia fails to achieve its goals now, so it has nothing more to do in Ukraine. It just has to retreat this or other way.
Vitalii Rybak, Chief Analyst at Internews Ukraine, speaking to us live from Western Ukraine. Appreciate your time. Be safe.